So if NATO breaks down, I'm not going to be upset about it. Why do we need to fund NATO? Golden Dome. It would be better for Golden Dome if we had it. Make any sort of invasion justifiable. Because I don't know why I never made a video on it before, but here I am now, talking about it. And a lot of people say, oh, well, you just said a lot of people would die. I did. Yeah. So Greenland's on everyone's mind right now, especially the French. The French really have Greenland in mind as they stationed, along with other NATO countries, a bunch of troops onto the island nation. For whatever reason, they said it was for training purposes, but it was also before Trump threatened to invade Greenland. But with that top headline, I read that and I thought I really need to make a video on this because I have a lot of strong opinions on Greenland, but I just felt they were whatever, right? Like, people will make their own opinions. I don't know why I never made a video on it before, but here I am now, talking about it. As you know me to be, I'm a neocon, right? I believe that invading other countries with the people of that country's benefit in mind is always the right answer. I guess that's too simple. Let me rephrase that. Invading any country with our American interests prioritized alongside the interests of the people of that country. Make any sort of invasion justifiable. If you benefit America the most and you benefit the people in some way in that country we're invading, and it outweighs the damage the invasion will do, it is always justifiable. Always, 100% of the time, justifiable. So let me take this into Greenland terms. And I'm not saying I support or disavow a land invasion of it. I just want to put it like this. There are 55,000 people in Greenland. And their economy is sturdy. We'll say it like that. Their economy is sturdy. If America goes and invades them, it's going to cause not as many deaths as you'd think. Let's say at most we have a 1,000 death casualty on both sides. So 500 soldiers, 500 Greenlanders, whatever. With that, we gain Greenland. Now this would be the worst case scenario, is that many people die, but we gain Greenland. The benefit of having Greenland for Americans is our economy would grow up and we would have a big defense island. Right, and I've heard people describe Greenland as, if America took Greenland, it would essentially be a helicarrier or a battleship island. It'd be a battleship nation. And a lot of people say the word helicarrier. I think that's too simple, but they say helicarrier because we can take planes from that island into Russia or Ukraine or Turkey so much faster. But that is one way it is described, I guess. So we'd get that, and then the people would get a robust economy because they'd be added to our economic ties. They'd be getting our funding, and there'd be a lot of imports and deports from Greenland. Manufacturing would go up, imports would go up, exports would go up, everything would go up. Greenland's economy would boom. So you were already at a set of America first, we get a bunch of resources, and Greenland gets a bunch of stuff, right? And a lot of people say, oh, well, you just said a lot of people would die. I did, yeah. But people died during the Spanish-American War. Look what we gained. You know what I mean? Death is a tragedy. Always. All deaths are tragedies. But as I said in my last video, God takes bad things for good purposes. I mean, if you want to protest that people can't die invading Greenland, you'd also have to say that that the invasion of Mexico was bad and that America shouldn't have gained all that territory, which, by the way, is like 4 states and Texas. You'd have to argue that that was all immoral because people died. And I'm not ready to admit that. I think it was great. right? You have to say that like Manifest Destiny was bad. It wasn't. Manifest Destiny was great. A lot of people died during Manifest Destiny. I'm sorry. I do care about those people. I do. I do care. However, their lives led to a greater cause, which was the manifest destiny of America. We have a destiny to manifest the world. That was the idea. So that's just the argument, right? Now we're getting into my opinion. Obviously, Trump has, or not obviously just yet, Trump has enacted an idea of paying every Greenlander $10,000 to $100,000 for their island, which at most is $5 billion, which is much less than the retail price of a Greenland. Okay, I think the retail price is like $77 billion, and America has offered and been rejected more than that. So, $5 billion would be a steal. I've never heard a good argument against buying Greenland. Right? That is our manifest destiny. As an American empire, we need to go and conquer land as morally and justifiably as possible. The most moral way to conquer a nation is through a purchase. No one dies, right? No one dies. When you're purchasing it from the citizens and not the government, no one gets upset. That is the most moral way to conquer a nation, is to pay the citizens to do it. A lot of people don't talk about it, though, is if we did do that for probably a good year, the inflation in Iceland would be insane. I guess there's two ways to look at it. Either Iceland would be a very rich nation if it stuck to if its island nation was directly, all the imports and exports were directly tied to America, then Iceland would be a very wealthy nation. I doubt that they would be directly tied to America, though. I feel like they'd still be importing and exporting a lot from Europe and other countries, and that would lead to a huge inflation boom. But we'll see. Trump is an economist. I think he knows this. We'll see what happens. So there's the chance that the Greenland economy just tanks, completely submerges. Or there's a chance that it booms higher than any territory in the American hemisphere, right? So I think like buying Greenland would be great. Invading Greenland, though, I don't know how I feel about it, actually. Because on one end, I'm a neocon, and I love invading, and I love taking over countries and gaining territory. But normally I love it on the basis that we're liberating people in the process. I always use Sudan as an example. Sudan's government is completely oppressive of the people. And Sudan has a lot of natural resources. If we invaded Sudan, we would be liberating the people from the government, which helps the people. We would be digging up all the natural resources, which helps America. And when we leave Sudan, we would leave the infrastructure to do so, therefore giving the people a bold economy. I love the idea of invading Sudan. I don't love the idea of invading Greenland because we're not liberating the people from an oppressive government. I mean, I think it's like 80% of Greenlanders oppose the idea of American imperialism, we'll say. And we'd be giving them a big economy, I guess, and infrastructure, lots of jobs. But their economy is pretty fine for the most part. I mean, they're not like Sudan. They're not starving every 10 minutes. So there's a lot of that nuance that goes in. A lot of niche stuff with this topic. Which leads me to not know exactly how I feel. Because on the other end of the stick, we would give them a big economy. They'd be an American territory, right? They'd be one of the most protected islands on the planet. They get a lot of jobs. We'd be building airports and military bases, so there'd be a lot of stuff to do in Greenland, a lot of jobs to fill. America would be more protected. There'd be a lot, right? I know Trump says that we need it for Golden Dome. I don't think we do. I feel like the tip of Maine is good enough, but he says we need it for Golden Dome. It would be better for Golden Dome if we had it. Golden Dome would be better. I feel like the tip of Maine is good enough though. And us in Greenland are already in an agreement that we can build military bases on Greenland. So whether or not we take over Greenland doesn't affect Golden Dome whatsoever. So I'm always on the side of purchasing Greenland, right? And everyone should be. And if you're not on that side, then I'm sorry, you're just not really American. If you're not on the side of I want as an American more territory, and I want to do it in the most moral way possible, which is this way, paying the citizens and not the government. If you're not on that side, then you're not American, right? You're obviously like North Korean, and you don't want America to expand at all, and you hate any sort of interests, American interests. You're not American, right? We have nothing in common. We have no longer any discussion to have. But if you're against the idea of us invading boots on the ground Greenland, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you. As the neocon, as the guy who loves to invade other countries and thinks that who think that all countries should bend the knee to America, I don't like this idea. I don't necessarily disavow it, but I don't like it. If it happened, I would be very on the fence about it. I'd be very neutral, you could say. I don't like it. I don't not like it. And there are a lot of thought thinkers, thought leaders, who agree with that. So it's not even like this is a niche opinion I have. This is kind of how a lot of people on my side think. And it becomes even more of a debated issue when you involve that France and other NATO countries have landed troops on Greenland for training purposes. Like, a lot of people say that if we did invade Greenland, we'd be invading Denmark and it would be the breakdown of NATO. I don't think it would actually be the breakdown of NATO. I think that's an extent, that's a reach. However, what do we need NATO for? A lot of people are going to be shocked to hear that. But seriously, what do we need it for? What, so Denmark can protect America from an invasion? No, it's for America to protect Denmark from an invasion, right? NATO is a way that small countries can munch off of big countries like America, UK, France, all that. We don't have a moral or legal obligation to defend small countries at all. What we did have is we had a unanimous interest in doing it for like stuff like the Soviet Union. A bunch of small countries get together, so then one country can't just build up a Soviet Union, or the Soviet Union rebuilds itself. So there were interests like that. But what are the interests now? I don't know. Russia's weak. China's pinned. America's on top. Why do we need to fund NATO? I don't think we should. I think we should have left NATO the moment Trump got into the presidency. So if NATO breaks down, I'm not going to be upset about it. Nobody other than tiny countries get any benefit from it. And as an American first advocate, America doesn't get anything from it. We don't even, like, people will make the argument that we get economic gains because we're at trust with those countries and those countries will do deals with us. That's not even true. That's not even true. We don't get more deals with these countries, and even to the extent we do, we also have to spend all our money on these countries. So that's just not true. However, invading Greenland with NATO troops on it would also be almost like a wartime act on these countries. So you could say NATO would go against or cause a war against America, which would definitely lead. If NATO declared war on America, that would be World War III for sure, right? Because China and Russia would jump in, and Russia would forget about Ukraine, right? I mean, there'd still be soldiers because Ukraine wouldn't forget about Russia, but Russia would totally forget about Ukraine. That would be World War III, right? So overall, I think we should all be on the side of buying Greenland. That is an American interest 100%. Invading Greenland, especially when there's UN troops landed there, not so much. That's different. It's weird. It's a weird situation. And it's so weird and it's so fragile and stressful and riskful that I think we should just forget about it. No more invading Greenland. We're not doing that. To the extent we do, though, we got to pray that it works out. With that being said, have a good day. God bless.